Hi everyone, my name is Saransh Kejriwal. In this series of videos, we'll be learning about Ambigram Design. A bit about myself. I live in India and I work as a software developer. This is the first lecture series that I've ever composed. I've been making ambigrams for almost 8 years now, ever since I was in high school. I have not received any formal training in ambigram design, and it's safe to say that I discovered them by pure trial and error. I've designed this 1 hour tutorial to share my knowledge and my technique for making ambigrams. I hope that it will help you get an insight of this rare art form for your future endeavors in design. With that having said, let's begin. I'll start with an introduction to ambigrams and the common misconceptions that are associated with making them. Then I'll move on to the technique that I discovered to make ambigrams, after which I'll cover some applications where ambigrams can be used. What you see here is an ambigram of the word magic. What's special about this form of writing is that if I were to flip it over, it still reads magic. You can see that I've written magic here in the normal way of writing. And if I were to flip that, it doesn't make much sense in this orientation. That's what you call a rotational ambigram. It makes sense, it's legible, even when it's rotated upside down. Next we have the ambigram of the word human. As you can see, this is horizontally symmetrical. What it means that if I were to place it in front of a mirror, it will still read human. Now in this tutorial, I'll stick to rotational ambigrams only. But I assure you that the techniques that I'll share with you, they're perfectly applicable for mirror image ambigrams as well. Now in my experience of ambigram design, I've come across many misconceptions about them. Firstly, they're impossible to make. In 2008, a novel by Mr. Dan Brown said that the idea that a word can be crafted into a perfectly symmetrical ambigram seemed utterly impossible. Well, I beg to differ. Second, it applies to a few words only. It's a common assumption that ambigrams are limited to words that contain symmetrical letters like S, O, H, I, or perhaps symmetrical pairs of letters like U or N. You see? That's not the case. I assure you that any word, well, at least in the English language, can be crafted into an ambigram. What matters, however, is its legibility. So, an ambigram can be illegible, but not impossible. So, before I start with my technique, let me start with the conventional approaches that come to mind when people design ambigrams for the first time. Let's say I had to design the ambigram of the word magic again. I start by writing it down. Then I flip it over and I write magic again. Now, what I do is I try to maybe perhaps redesign this C here such that it looks like an M when it's flipped. So I suppose I should do something like that. Well, I guess. Next we move on to the A and I. Maybe that's how you would do it. Then the G. Yeah, that looks good enough. Now we can use the inverted images of these guys. And the final ambigram looks something like... Now while it's close, it does look a lot at first sight like the word M-A-G-J-G, whatever that word means. So the conventional technique is not very effective at making very good ambigrams, rather very legible ambigrams. It's close, but there is a better way of doing it, as we shall see in the next video.